Hello, fellow QuickBooks and accounting enthusiasts. Welcome to the QuickBooks Account Tips channel. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of journal entries versus credit memos. For this scenario in QuickBooks, we've invoiced the customer $1,105 when we should have invoiced the customer $552.50. We need to make an adjustment that reflects the correct amount of $552.50. And this can be done using a few different methods. We could delete the invoice and re-enter the invoice with the correct amount. We could use a journal entry, or we could use a credit memo. Assuming deleting the invoice is not possible, we're going to explore both options of using a credit memo and a journal entry. We will look at how both options are applied in QuickBooks, and of course, you'll make the final decision as to which option would be best regarding your circumstances. So we see here, customer John Doe has a balance of $1,105. We see here, this is the invoice. And we're first going to use a journal entry to reflect the correct amount of $552.50. And we need to know which accounts are impacting this receivable here. Now, journal entries, they are the magic wand. They impact the entire account. So we're going to first see how the journal entry is going to be applied, what accounts are going to be affected, and the ending results. So we double clicked on the invoice. We see the invoice is past due. We're not going to worry about that, but we do see here the balance due is $1,105. As we saw back here earlier, the balance is $1,105. So we want to know which accounts we are going to affect using a journal entry. So here, we'll click Reports. Reports is already selected. And we will select Transaction Journal. Transaction Journal, it shows us the accounts that are affected and the debits and credits to these accounts. So we see accounts receivable here. It has a debit of $1,105. Accounting services, which is an income account, is credited $1,000. Sales tax payable to both the state of California and the city of Los Angeles are both credited $75 and $30. Total $1,105. So we are going to write a journal entry. So we're going to go up to Company. In the drop-down menu, we are going to select Make Journal Entries. And we're going to click OK here. And the first account, for me, I'm going to say Accounts Receivable. I'm going to credit Accounts Receivable $552.50. Now what's important here is that we apply this journal entry to the actual job. And here I have the job name is under John Doe. And we're going to do accounting services income, $552. And I'm going to make sure that this is applied to the actual job of John Doe. So we see here the receivable gets credited $552. The accounting services income account gets debited $552, and we're going to click Save and Close. Once we click Save and Close, we will now go back to the account, and we now see the balance for John Doe is $552. And we're looking at all transactions here. So we have the invoice that was $1,105, and the general journal, which was the journal entry we just made for $552.50, which brings the balance to $552.50. And we don't see that the invoice was impacted at all, but it's reflecting here in the balance, the correct balance that we want. Why is that? Well, the journal entry we just made, the journal entry is like a magic wand. We made an entry to accounts receivable and an entry to accounting services income. We just made sure that entry was applied to this customer's job. So it's like the magic wand here. You can make a lot of things happen with a journal entry. And we see, so when you go into your invoices and you're saying, hey, I applied the journal entry, why is the invoice still reflecting the amount? Well, the correct amount, or the incorrect amount, but the account balance is correct. Well, because the journal entry didn't specifically impact this invoice. It impacted the actual accounts overall. So this is why we see the account balance reflected correctly, $552.50. So now we're going to get rid of this journal entry, and we're going to look at how a credit memo impacts the actual invoice and how it will impact the account. So I double clicked on the journal entry. I'm going to right click. I'm going to delete the general journal. And I don't necessarily recommend we, delete journal entries just willy-nilly, but in this case, it's okay to do so. Click Save and Close. And so now we see everything has gone back to the our initial balance, $1,105 here. We have an invoice, $1,105, and we see we're under all transactions. So we see this is just what we started with. We're back at zero. We're back at square one. So now we're going to apply a credit memo. Now, credit memos are more specific. Credit memos are more specific to the actual invoice. You put the credit memo on the customer job, but they are more specific to the invoice. And we are going to see that now. So to create a credit memo, so we can have the correct balance reflected of $552.50, what we are going to do is we're going to go to Customers. We are going to click Create Credit Memos. Now, a lot of times here, the credit memo side, you're going to see the customer job, John Doe, template, custom credit memo. And the item, we're going to just say John Doe service. Description, we are going to say to reflect the correct pricing. Nothing major. We're just going through the motions here. And we know we want the credit memo to be $552.50. I'm going to tab over here. I'm going to click tab. Now, here's two things. We know we only want the credit memo to reflect $552, which it is. But when we look down here, we see there is the total amount of the credit is going to be $610.52. And it's this taxable item right here. So we are going to come up here where it says tax, and we are going to click that drop down arrow, and we are going to say non-taxable. This is for this scenario only. It's not, this isn't how you would generally do things. Maybe for your own tax purposes, you would click taxable, but for this scenario, we are going to click non-taxable because we are only we're only creating this credit memo to reflect the amount of $552.50. So we're going to tab over. We see now the remaining credit is $552.50. Going to save and close. Now, this option appears on the screen. The credit memo or refund has a remaining balance which you may use. What would you like to do with this credit? We are going to select retain as an available credit for this scenario. Click OK. Now what do we see? The balance here for John Doe is $552.50. We're under all transactions. And now we see the credit memo is applied here. And the invoice still reflects $1,105. Well, how do we use this credit memo to reflect the correct amount of $552? Well, QuickBooks has already done this for us. If we look at the actual invoice itself, okay, we're going to see $1,105. We're going to double click on the invoice. We are going to click main here. Once we click main, we're going to go over here and select apply credits. Once we select apply credits, we see $552.50. It's already selected. We're going to click done. We see now the payment has been applied of $552.50. That's the credit, which relieves a remaining balance of $552.50. I'm going to select Save and Close. And so now when we look at the invoice, the amount was $500. The original amount was $1,105. The open balance now is $552.50. So let's kind of look at what happened here. What we did, I'm going back into the invoice. We're going to go back into Apply Credits. What we're going to see here, let me move this over. We see this Apply Credits screen appear. And what happened initially, let me get out of this. What happened initially was we applied the credit, right? We created the credit memo. We see that here. But the invoice isn't reflecting the amount we want it to reflect. The account is, the total account balance is, but we need the invoice to reflect the $552.50. So I double clicked on the invoice. I made sure the main tab was selected, clicked Apply Credits, and this screen appears. Let me move this over. This screen right here appears. And what this is saying is, hey, you created a credit memo. You have a credit to apply to this receivable, this accounts receivable. You have accounts receivable normally runs a debit balance. So now you have a credit to apply to the receivable. Do you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, this is exactly what we want to do. We want to apply this $552.50 credit memo to the John Doe customer job. We're going to select Done. We look down here. We see $552.50 is what we want as the remaining balance. On the $1,105 invoice, we're going to select Save and Close. And we are going to look at the invoice. Now we see the invoice has a remaining balance of $552.50, which reflects the account balance. So we see using a journal entry, it affects the accounts overall, which you would not see an impact on the journal entry. Whereas when we use a credit memo, we've now seen that a credit memo is specific to an actual invoice, and you would go in and apply that credit memo to the specific invoice to reflect the correct balance you want. And there you have it, folks. Journal entries and credit memos demystified. Let me know your opinion in the comment section below. Also, if you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Until next time, keep those books balanced, and remember, debits, credits, and QuickBooks. Have a good day.